reproducible deterministic builds. And so like in like 30 seconds or so, once everybody gets up there, we're going to be able to start a Lightning testnet node just like within this REPL, right? So which is pretty cool. So how many people? Is everybody ready? Everybody's got it up? Yes? Hands? It's repl.its/@CodyLow/getting started with Core Lightning. But if you just go on Repl.it and then you click the community link over here, and then you just search getting started with no spaces, then it's this REPL. Okay? Cool. So let's go through. So I'm going to fork it myself, I think. Does it let me? I'm the one that made it. So okay, cool. So here's my fork. All right. So right now, this is just spinning up a NixOS environment that's in the cloud somewhere. And Repl.it is like an online IDE. And so all we're going to do is we're going to add Bitcoin D, and we're going to add C Lightning into the dependencies. And then in the background, it's going to be just doing all of the install, all of the setup, everything that we're going to need for spinning up our Lightning nodes, right? So, and all my instructions and stuff for this is in the README. And so you can literally just copy all these steps, or just you can go ahead if you want, if you're like an experienced coder and stuff, right? But I'll do everything pretty slowly as we're doing this, right? So for step one, we're going to have to add these in the dependencies. So I'm going to go to the files and the ... show hidden files, and then click on repl.its. So this is like the Nix configuration file within your REPL. And literally, this is all we're going to do for doing the setup for Bitcoin Core and for Core Lightning, is that just within here, I'm just going to add the two dependencies. So packages.bitcoind, packages.c Lightning. Right? And so now that I've added those, just in the background, Repl.it's doing all the install, all the setup, everything within the Nix environment. And so right now I have, and all of you guys should also have, Bitcoin D and Core Lightning like in this environment, right? And so let's get the shell loaded. You can do, if you wanted to, you could do Bitcoin D. I'll just start it. Sorry. Why isn't it typing? There we go, right? And so this is like a Bitcoin Core node running on mainnet right now. Like all the install, everything was just handled in the background, right? If you guys wanted to do that. Don't do this, right? Because you don't need a mainnet node. We're going to be using testnet for this. Okay, so just exit out. And then continue on with the steps. Okay, so literally like all this setup is already done for you. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to pip install a couple of dependencies we're going to need for the Core Lightning plugins. And so Core Lightning, the architecture for Core Lightning is based off plugins. So there's the main process, which is like the Core Lightning process. And then basically everything you can modularize within Core Lightning runs as a child process to that major process. What's great about that is that just on the fly, without bringing the node down, you can just plug in new subprocesses, right? And so a lot of the, so Core Lightning is written in C, but a lot of the plugins are written in stuff like Rust or Python or all that kind of stuff. And as long as it can interact with the main process, then you can coordinate and communicate across the plugins. What's also great about this is that all of the plugins independently can fail, right, without bringing down your node at any time. Cool? So we're going to be using some Python plugins for this one. So just run that command, the pip install. This is like all of the Python Lightning libraries that you're going to need. So is everybody at this point? It's like you added these dependencies to your Nix config file, and then just run pip install in the shell, right? So the shell is, if you go on the right-hand side, you've got a console and a shell. Just click into the shell, and then just copy and paste those commands over into there, right? And your Nix, your repl.its file should look like this. All you have to do is just add the packages.bitcoind and packages.c Lightning. Yep, that's it. We're setting everything up for this one. Yeah, you got to go in files in the here. You got to show hidden files, right? So the ... in the top of the files, and it shows. See these config files part? That's like hidden because I don't know. I always show them, right? Like they should show them by default because every time I spin up REPL, I want to do a node just running in the background, right? So, okay, cool. So is everybody at that point? Is that you've got these two dependencies put in there, and then you ran this pip install command. So if you guys just in the README, it's I've got all the commands there, so you can just copy them over from the Markdown, right? Cool. Okay, so now we're going to do is we're just going to pull a bunch of just a bunch of plugins from GitHub. So if you just run this command, git clone, so repl.its also has like all the Git stuff already installed and done for you, right? So if you just clone down this is like a community curated plugins directory for Core Lightning, right? And so there's going to be 20 or so plugins that come down. We're going to use 2 of them, right? And so right now we're all set to spin up our node, okay? So what's cool about Lightning is that Core Lightning again is that it's got this plugins process. One of the plugins is the BitcoinD backend, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to disable that BitcoinD backend plugin, and we're going to use a plugin called Sauron. And it's called Sauron because you lose all your privacy by doing this. But we don't really care, right? Because this is just like a little testnet environment. We're going to unplug the BitcoinD backend. We're going to plug in Sauron, and that's going to redirect all of our queries against BitcoinD to blockstream.info API, right? So now, just in this really fast environment, we're able to set up these testnet nodes, and then all of our traffic that we're like querying against the blockchain for, it'll just hit against Blockstream's API and then come back to us, right? So if you just run this command in the background, what this is doing is saying, hey, Lightning daemon, start on testnet, run in the background as a background process, make the log file this log file.txt. So you'll have a log file.txt in there. I'm do that so I can like help you guys debug. Disable plugin bCLI, so disable the Bitcoin CLI backend. Plug in Sauron, and then the Sauron API endpoint is this blockstream.info/testnet, right? And so like this is another cool thing you could do, right? It's because if you wanted to, like you could set up just a local Explora, right? And then like ping it off if you wanted to use Explora instead of using your normal Bitcoin backend, right? So if you guys run this command, and you guys have run the 3 commands above, then your Lightning node should be running in the background in your REPL right now, right? So and you can test that by just doing lightning CLI -- testnet get info. But just for the rest of this, just set the alias LCT for lightning CLI -- testnet, right? So just drop that in there, and then do LCT get info, and then put your hand up once like you see like the node information and like, hey, your node is running in the background and like you're running on testnet. Cool. All right, I saw a couple hands. Okay, yeah, no, I've got a bunch. So once you guys set those up, for in that Telegram chat, if you guys run LCT new adder and then drop the addresses in the Telegram chat, then I'll just start sending Bitcoin out to you guys so that we can use them later, right? Cool. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so I need mine. So at this point, I should do alias LCT equals. Oh wait, I need to run all this stuff, don't I? Okay. Okay, who's got their nodes up? I've seen a couple. Okay, I've seen a couple testnet addresses in there. Sweet. Cool. So. You can do either. I'll just be working through those and starting. sending them out, right? Or you can go to the faucet, but apparently the faucet's overloaded. Okay, you can. I haven't been able to. I can get to my testnet coins. Okay. Yeah. I've got some, but. Okay. So now here's mine. Gotta do this one. Paste. Okay. And now we are over here, right? Sweet. Shell. Paste. Okay, cool. So now, as you can see, like you should have basically just like a unconnected node at this point, right? So if we look up here, the node ID, this is like the pubkey for it, and then like you got your color, your alias, all that sort of stuff, right? And then yeah, so there we go. It's like everybody here should have like a testnet node up and running now, right? Which is pretty cool. Awesome. So here we go. Okay, so the first plugin that we're going to do is Help Me, right? And so Help Me is just like a plugin that helps you set up and run your Lightning node and all that kind of stuff, right? So the way that we're going to do this is that when we pulled down these plugins, not only did we get Sauron, but we got a bunch of other cool stuff, right? So like all sorts of these cool plugins. One of them is Help Me. And so if I go down here and run this command, first thing I want to show you is the PS tree. So if we look at what our node looks like right now, if I run PS processes, where's my Lightning? 831. All right, so PS tree 831. Oh, crap, that's the wrong one. Wait a second, that's the wrong one. Yeah, well, let me just activate the next one. Right. So if we get on here, you paste. Cool, so if we look over here, right? So these are all the plugins. This is all the different plugins for Lightning. And so you can see like when I originally pulled down Core Lightning using Nix, is that the way Nix is able to do these reproducible builds is that when it does the build, all Nix, everything in the Nix store is going to have this hash at the front. Right? And so what it's doing is it's doing the rebuild and it's checking the hash against the binaries that are pulled down from the Nix package manager, right? And so the Nix package repository, right? And so like these were the ones that came with C Lightning, right? So there was like the Core Lightning, was that there was like the top line one and then all the different plugins for that, right? And so like one of the really cool things is that we've got like offers, you've got keysend. Pay is like just a separate plugin, right? And so like for example, once like the Picard payments that Rusty's working on gets finished up, then like you can just unplug Pay, plug in Renee Pay, and now you're using Renee Pay for like all of your payments, right? And then as we go down here, we can see the ones that we pulled down from there because we didn't build these with Nix. Is that this plugin for Sauron was when we initially started it, right? But with no downtime to our node, just like in Stride, we plugged in this Help Me plugin. And the Help Me plugin is like, hey, now it's also coordinating with the node and doing all that sort of stuff, right? And so if I go over here, LCT Help Me, there we go. Now we've like our node can now help us figure out how to like set up and connect with everybody else, right? So this is going to take a little bit, right? But like now that we've got like all of our nodes running and all this kind of stuff, is like look over at your neighbor and then be like, hey, I want to connect to your node, and then we're going to try to open a channel between those two, and then do a payment between you and your neighbor, okay? Because if we look at it right now, is that we can still do get. Is there a T? Right now, I still have no peers, no channels, and no nodes, right? And so like the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use just follow the help me commands of like, hey, getting some testnet onto your node, and then peering with other people. You guys can do that right now while I go through and start sending testnet Bitcoin to everybody, and then opening a channel with them, right? And then what's also cool is that you'll be able to see as you do like, hey, the two of you connect to a third person, you'll see the gossip move through of like, hey, and you only have to copy over that first person's pub key. And then when once you do the connection with him as a peer, then you'll get the gossip from the other people, right? And hopefully by the end of this, we'll have everybody in this room, all of their pub keys are connected, all of their nodes are connected to everybody else. And then we can start opening channels and passing some test bit going around, okay? So everybody just like look to your right, or I know these are circular, right? But like find a buddy and then see if you can just pass the node ID between the two of you and use help me to connect between you, your node, and your buddy's node, okay? Yeah, and the command for it is going to be lightning CLI -- testnet, so LCT connect and then the node ID, right? And so if you do LCT get info, it says the node ID right here, right? Yeah, so you're going to do node ID at down here, right? Node ID at oh wait. Yeah. Right, because we're on the local network here, right? So it's going to be 127.0.0.1, and then.
But aren't these like VPNs and aren't the repl.its like a virtual private, like aren't we on someone else's computer,
Okay.
like a data center, and we use like the IP address?
Yep, you're right. When I was doing this, I had 2 repls on the same one. Okay. All right. Scratch that. What we're going to do is, if everybody go to 1ml.com, we're going to connect to them. Okay? So. Here we go. Sorry, I was using 2 repls on the same computer, and that's why it was working when I did this in the thing, right? So everybody here, or I guess, is Jesse here? We can use amboss, right? amboss.space or 1ml.com, right? And then just go pick a node, go find it.
You gotta find it on the testnet, right?
Yeah.
Testnet
Does amboss have testnet? No. 1ml.
There's a testnet on 1ml. I'll put it
Yeah.
in the chat.
Here we go.
1ml.com/testnet.
And then just pick a node. And then let's connect. Yeah, it's you need the IP import at the end if it's ClearNet. If you get 1ml, you just hit the top. What? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, who's got peers now? Who's connected to someone? Awesome. Hey, if you run LCT list peers, then like you should start seeing like a bunch of other nodes that you can connect to as well. All right. First round of testnet Bitcoin's going out. Yeah.
Yeah, I got lucky on the first, but the other ones don't like me. Oh yeah. Yeah, one of them is weird. Yeah, that's right. Getting DDoS, we all chose the top one. Yeah. That's where I was like, I should have just spoken out. Like, who's next? Oh, that's right.
And then also, if you guys want, a lot of these other plugins are using Python too, right? And so if you want to like try any of the other plugins, like you're already set up for it, you just run LCT plugin start and then the path for it, right? So you can just the help me command that I have in there, you can just change the path to whatever the other plugin is that you want to start as well, right? I'm like halfway through the testnet addresses now.
LCT list funds. Still poor.
All right, next round is out. If you run LCT list funds, you should be able to see the incoming payment for when I drop it in there. All right. Okay, everybody who posted an address in the Telegram group, you've got like 1 million sats coming your way, right? Or it might be 100,000. Okay. Cool. All right. Hey, how many people here have connected to a peer from 1ML? Okay. You got everybody? Okay. So now let's try if you're passing your node ID around, right? So now since you're connected to somebody on 1ML, you should be able to you should be able to open a channel to that same party once you get some testnet Bitcoin, right? So once you're there, then the commands for opening a channel is going to be lct fund. Wait, where is it? Sorry. You still have no funds? Wait, did everybody put their addresses in the? No, so Bitcoin D is not running right now. So what we did, well, you can turn it on if you want, right? But what we did is we used Sauron to route all of the blockchain traffic from going to Bitcoin D to going to Blockstream's API, right? Because like if you think about it, right, it's like why do you need Bitcoin D in order to run Lightning, right? Like Lightning is just a kind of a different way of managing your ownership of Bitcoin. So instead of me owning a key, which is the secret I would use to unlock the Bitcoin, what I'm holding on to is a transaction, well, a series of transactions, where if I broadcast like an old channel state, then I lose all my money, or I can broadcast the most up-to-date channel state, and I get some of my money, right? So in that sense, I only own some of the money in this channel, because if I broadcast the old channel state, I lose all of it, right? And so like what really do you need the Bitcoin backend for? Is that what you need it for is like, hey, make sure that this channel is still open, make sure nobody's published the transaction closing the channel and all that kind of stuff. And this is how stuff like Greenlight or I don't know, Voltage, you have a special is it a shared backend for the different Lightning nodes? Are they sharing the same Bitcoin D backend, right?
We have a bunch of Bitcoin D backends.
Yeah, but it's multiple nodes sharing, right? Right? So it's not the same thing of like, hey, I need to run this Bitcoin D node so I can like hold and manage all my keys and all that kind of stuff, right? It's like you're just pointing to the blockchain because I need information about what the most up-to-date channel information is, right? So you can just route that through using Explora to like Blockstream or your own Explora or like someone's Electrum server, right? So, cool. Okay, I see more addresses.
How can I get once I have a potential peer from 1ML, how
Yep.
do I actually attach that peer and what's
Yeah, so you're connected already, so you need to open a channel, right? For list peers? Yeah, list peers. LCT list peers. You should see all your peers.
Once we get testnet Bitcoin, do we post it in the Telegram?
Yeah, you can post it in the Telegram and then just like with your neighbor, right? Just be like, hey, here's. The Telegram's groups list are the BTC++1, and then inside of there, I put another link. Okay. Hey, if you do list funds right now, who sees the incoming testnet payment?
I do not.
You do not. Justin, I definitely sent it to you. Okay. Send.
I put in 10K.
Withdraw. Yeah, you're welcome.
what's the initial PSBT?
The command for opening a channel is once they're in your peers list, so once you do list peers and you see that node show up, you do fund channel -k, and then you set if you just run help me fund channel, right, then it'll like tell you the way to do it, right? But I'll post that in the chat as well.
I
Yep.
think I got everything good.
Uh, Okay, so first block just got confirmed. So if you guys run list channels, list funds, you guys should see, a couple of people should see that.
I only have 10,000 Satoshis, and that's not enough. None of my peers want to accept it.
You only have 10,000? I'm just doing 0.0001. Here, put another address in. I might have hit another 0.
Yeah, finding stuff like that.
Okay. What's up? How do you add what? Is Tor? Do you have to enable? How do you enable Tor for this one?
Like, and there's some settings that I always forget. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's so if you do LCT stop, then it'll spin your node down, and then in the in the core Lightning documentation, there's an inline setting.
I just need the like in the repl.its stuff.
For
But when you run Lightning D, you have to have a dash dash.
yeah, it's
So it's not right. So, but it like the system.
Look at that.
Did it go? Like we added lightning D as a package.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Got it in one?
Yeah.
But it didn't work for it. What you do, man?
I didn't try that, and so I will look into that and get back to you for that. Okay. Cool. All right. Are people starting to receive testnet coins? I'm seeing. Okay. There's no block getting confirmed, which is annoying, but that's all good. Who's connected to somebody else right now? On 1ML. Yep. So if you do list peers, you're getting like a bunch of gossip for. If you do LCT list peers, you get a bunch of gossip. You can see a bunch of people to connect to. Sorry, do LCT list nodes. Testnet's not confirming a block. All right, I've got like.
When do we switch to reg test?
We can do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
if
that
you
right now.
want to, I
Yeah.
don't know. Is that like,
Yeah.
it's all local stuff.
Yeah, I've got the script for it.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, in the meantime, while we're waiting for testnet to confirm a block, I'm gonna set up a local reg test environment on here, and you can kind of just like follow along with what I'm working on right here, right?
Reg
So.
test, maybe we should explain the difference between reg test and testnet.
Yep.
I don't know. Who knows what reg test is? Oh, half the room. That's incredible. Okay. So what we've been trying to do is set up all our Lightning nodes to work on testnet. We ran into two kind of things that were unanticipated problems. One is that in order to connect to a node, you need to know the IP address, and since we're all in this like repl.its environment, getting an IP address that we can connect to each other with is like non-trivial. So that's a problem. One that would have been really fun to connect to each other with stuff. The other problem we ran into is that we're trying to send everyone testnet coins. So you have some Bitcoin to commit to channels, but you're not able to do that unless block confirms. And on testnet, we don't know when blocks are going to confirm. So we're all currently waiting for nodes for a block to confirm, which is also not very much fun. So one thing we can do is instead of trying to do it on testnet is make a local reg test. I mean, reg stands for regression test network. Regression is basically like a class of like tests you write in software development. It's basically tests that you run when you write some code, and then before you commit it, you make sure all your tests pass. There's no regression, so that's why it's called reg test. Regression test network. No regressions in your code. Anyway, the way that it works though is instead of connecting to a big blockchain, like the testnet blockchain, is it's all local on your computer. So you can't connect to anyone else, but you can spin up two nodes locally and have them talk to each other really easily, and it's super lightweight, and you don't have to wait for blocks to happen. You can make blocks happen locally. And Core Lightning has this really fancy, cute little script that lets you set up nodes and connect to each other and give yourself funds all really quickly, which is what Cody is setting up right now. So we have this fancy little script called startup reg test.py. I use this when I'm testing out stuff on Core Lightning all the time because it lets me spin up nodes and get them to interact with each other really quickly. Yeah, so we're gonna, I think, in our last like 20 minutes or so, we're gonna try and I think pivot to using. Did you call it the name?
Did I call it the same?
I don't know. Should be able to. It's in. If you loaded, did we clone Core Lightning?
Yeah, no, I did.
We didn't clone Core Lightning, did we? So this little script will let us set up and run.
Oops.
Oh no, is your script in the plugins directory? Or?
No, I'm not. Yep, you're right. That's why.
Yeah.
Someone call one of their lighter friends and tell them to switch over to testnet.
Cool. Okay, all right, we're good. All right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm gonna start up 3 local reg test nodes, like just on the screen, right? So start LN 3. Cool.
This one actually uses Bitcoin D, but locally, because the nice thing about there's no initial block download with reg test, so you can start it right away, which is cool.
Yep. Cool. So here we go. So now we've got this startup reg test environment, and so it's loaded with a default wallet for the Bitcoin backend, and all 3 of these nodes are sharing the same backend. So kind of the same thing we were doing with Sauron, right? But so over here, I'm gonna get some funds. So we're gonna do BT CLI generate to address 101 blocks, and then I need to get a new address. Yeah, it's in the plugins directory, so if you just the README there, right? So this is reg test, so I control the blockchain for this reg test one, so I just made 101 blocks, so I have my first spendable one, right? So if I go here and I do BT CLI list unspent, there we go. I've got like those. So this reg test environment started with 1 block, and so I made 101 more blocks, and now the blockchain is currently at 102. So these are the 2 Coinbase outputs that I have to my node that I can spend, right? So once the testnet transactions go through, then you'll be able to do this, right? Which is I've got 3 nodes, so I've got L1, right? And so this one, I'm going to, when I initially set it up, there's no peers or channel because like I haven't gossiped between this node and the other nodes. And so I'm going to connect the second node to this one, right? So for this, I'm going to need the 2 nodes. And so I'll connect 2 to 1. And so that'll be L1, oh, do L2. No, L1, CLI, connect. That, oh, oops. It's kind of hard to turn back and forth doing this. I need copy that. There we go. That's very important.
Control A.
It's fine. Yep. It's 97272. Awesome, cool. So I just made my first connection between these 2 nodes, right? And so now if I do go over here and do L1, so this is, I'll do L2, CLI, this peers. Cool, so like now I've got a peer, right? And so what can I do with a peer is I can, first I'm gonna have to send some funds to L1, and then when I do that, I'll be able to open a channel, right? So I'll do L1 CLI, new adder, and then I will send some funds to this guy. I'm going to do was L1 new adder, and so send to address. BTCLI. Is it sent to address? There we go. 10 BTC. There we go. Cool. And so now I have to mine a block. So this is something like when you're first using regtest that can be kind of annoying is that whenever you're using regtest, it's like when you broadcast a transaction, then you'll be like, hey, I'm done now, right? It's like, no, you broadcast a transaction, you have to mine another block in order to get that transaction included into the next block, right? So if you're stumbling around for like half an hour trying to figure out why your transaction, you can't see it yet, then there we go, right? So if I do L1 CLI list funds, there we go, right? So now I've moved the Bitcoin from my Bitcoin backend to my Lightning node. So now for this Lightning node, we're going to make a channel from Lightning node 1 to Lightning node 2. So here we're going to do L1 CLI fund channel -k ID equals. I want to fund a channel with this peer. Where is it? Yeah. So there's a lot of passing around node IDs when you're doing this stuff. Amount equals sat equals 200. Cool. All right, so I just opened a channel. So now instead of nothing showing up when I do list peers and list when I do list channels, I'm going to have a channel open. So I can do L1 CLI list channels. Oh, sorry. It doesn't show up right now because you have to wait 6 confirmations for the channel to be like live and usable, right? And so, but for right now, and this is another thing, this is like a distinction when you're first starting with Lightning, is that there's peers, and then there's nodes, and there's channels. Those are like kind of the relevant terminology for this one, right? Peers are like people that you know about, but they only become a node once they have a confirmed channel, right? And so once that channel has 6 confirmations on it, now that person is connected into the Lightning network. They're a node on the Lightning network, right? And so for this one, if I do right now L1 CLI list nodes, I'm getting no one, right? The reason why is that, hey, this one knows about a peer, but why is it not showing up in nodes? Because there's no confirmed channel within there. So if I go and generate a couple blocks, let's do 6 blocks, and now do this. L1 CLI list nodes, it's still saying none, but if I do list channels, it's still saying none. I need to do another one, sorry. 6. Another. All right, why is that not working? Oh, sorry, this one didn't go in, right? So I don't have wombo channels enabled, so my channel didn't go through. So I'll adjust that. Yeah, so let me just delete a 0. There we go, right? So now this channel just got confirmed. This is like the transaction that went through for making the channel. And then if I run these same commands I did before, so if I do list channels, there's still nothing in there, even though that transaction went through and the channel's good. Yep.
So we opened the channel, I don't know where to see it, but when we did list channels, and it just like started listing without like.
Okay, yeah, so hey, just real fast. So there, the transactions went through on testnet apparently. So if you guys check your nodes again, you should have them. These guys, when they did list channels, even though they hadn't opened a channel yet, a bunch of stuff came up. Why was that? Well, now they're connected on the Lightning network, for the testnet Lightning network. They know about other nodes. They know about other channels, right? Yeah, you're getting gossip from everybody else. In here, this is a reg test environment, so I don't have gossip from anybody else.
So list channels will.
List channels shows all the channels you know about, right? List channels and list nodes, yeah. List channels and list nodes tells you all what your version of the Lightning network looks like, right? It's like, to my knowledge, these are all the channels that exist. These are all the nodes that exist. These are all the peers that I know about, right? And so when you're doing your route finding and all that kind of stuff, it's not like, hey, there's just like a centralized Lightning network thing that everybody's hitting, unless you're using Amboss, right? But for getting this information is that you're constructing your own version of the Lightning network, which is, this is the gossip that I know about. And so based off of that gossip, I'm going to assemble routes in order to make the payments back and forth, okay? So here, right now, I do list channels. There's nothing in there. But if I generate 6 blocks and then hit list channels again, I have to generate 6 more blocks. There we go. Why is my channel not showing up?
I don't know. What if you did list peers in there? List peers, L1 peers, L1 CLI list peers. I think you need 2 each.
Just to guess.
It says normal.
Okay.
It might just be taking a while to end up in your gossip.
Okay.
Mumble, mumble. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we got this. So when I do my list peers, it tells me about some channels and stuff that I own.
Oh, you know what it is? When you run it locally with a dev build environment, we enable fast gossip, but this doesn't have fast gossip set up.
Okay. You have to do enable developer options or whatever.
Yeah. But I don't think Nix does that. When you like import it with Nix, I don't think it's done. That's not a
Yeah,
Nix
that's
thing.
true. That's okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so now we've like done the first channels, we've done the first nodes, and so now let's do a payment between the two different people, the 2 different nodes. So for this one,
Lightning payment, what? What are you paying for?
yeah. Okay, so wait. Well, actually, how many people have testnet coins now? Do those blocks get confirmed? They're not confirmed? How is testnet not confirmed?
Well, the front
Yeah. Those got confirmed?
but you did 10,000. Yeah, I think you were the number you're setting maybe is an MSATs.
Oh my god. That's okay.
But I got some from a faucet.
That's all right. Let's go install here. And here, yeah, I'll just do the help me plugin for this one too. All right, so let's do L1, CLI, plugin, start.
You didn't bring enough in the whole class.
Cool.
I'm going the other way with it.
Yeah, I've opened 2 channels, but they're not fully. They need like automation before they.
Okay. All right, so here I've got my channel set up, and so we're good. We can start doing the payments, right? So if we look over here, I just did my list channel, so now the gossip went through, and so I've got everything. What I opened here is a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's a 10 million sat channel, right? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push the payment from the first node to the second node, right? So as we're looking at this channel, you can see when you do list channels here, it actually repeats across the two, right? And so this is like something I found interesting of like when you're actually looking at this at a low level is that you can think about the Lightning Network channels as like a directional, create cycles, right? But like a directional graph. And so the two parts of this channel are like, this is the stuff that I know about of like kind of what's in my direction. This is like sort of what's in the other guy's direction,
Can I add a little
right?
color to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the reason that they're like this is that what this is showing. So list channels, my understanding is that it's listing. Okay. So right now these have the same fee, but like for those of you who heard my talk earlier, we were talking about updating how channel fees are done, etc. The reason that these are broken out separately is that each node independently is about its own gossip message, that it contains data about how much. There's like 2 things in here that I think are really interesting. One is your base fee and like the fees you're charging. So there's a fee per millionth and a base fee. And each side of the channel is allowed to price the liquidity that is pointing in a different direction differently. So that's why it shows up twice, is because there's 2 different parts of information that you might have depending on which way the liquidity is flowing. In one direction you might have one fee that's set by one side of the channel, and in the other direction you'll have a different fee that's set by that other side of the node. So each side of the channel has an opportunity to set a price for the liquidity on their side of the channel independently, which is why they show up twice in here. There's different information. The other thing that you're allowed to set that's different than the fee, which I don't really ever pay that much attention to, is this delay number. So this delay is something that gets added to like the time lock whenever you send a payment. We haven't really, I don't know if anyone's really spent a lot of time in this conference talking about time locks and HTLCs and stuff. Maybe Fabrice covered it yesterday, probably. But this delay number, you can set that independently, and that has an impact on how long you have to wait to unlock an HTLC in a failure case. So those are different, and that's why there are 2 for each like channel. You get 2 pieces of information, 2 sets of information that might be slightly different depending on which direction the payment is going. Channel.
Yeah. Yeah, so you see here it's like source destination, and then these 2 are just flipped for this one, right? So it's one channel, but like it's describing 2 different things. If I'm pushing in one direction, I have to pay 1 fee rate. I need 1 min CLTV delay, and then different for the other ones, right?
Yeah.
And then,
So that's why you have 1 channel, but 2 list channel entries, which is cool.
yeah.
Can you briefly mention the maximum MSAT?
Yeah, that is the maximum amount of Satoshis that one HTLC is allowed to send through that channel. I think, is my understanding. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's a pretty thing, yeah. So when you send an HTLC through this channel, the maximum
Okay, cool. So I just generated an invoice. So we just got the 2 nodes that are connected right now. So I just made an invoice from the first node, and it's going to be paid by the second node, right? So when I do L1 CLI invoice, you do, this is for 10,000 sats, label and description, and what do I get out of here? I get the payment hash, I get the block height that this expires at, and then,
This is a timestamp.
this one?
Yeah, so every invoice you put like a timestamp.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's,
when it expires.
it should be like 1,000,000 something if it's
Yeah, I
block
think
height.
it's like a week from now.
Yeah.
I think we default to like a week.
Yeah, and then if you look over here, it's insufficient incoming channel capacity to pay the invoice, right? And why is that? It's because I opened in the other direction. And so if I go up here and switch it to L2 CLI,
Yeah. So this is the channel that opened the node that opened the channel, put funds in it, so they can't receive any in-account payments because they don't have any inbound capacity. But if the channel that got the channel open to them with the money pointing at them makes the invoice, they can get their invoice paid. Cody, why didn't we open up balanced channels with money?
we should have, but I am doing this on the fly because I thought we were going to be on testnet. Yeah, so here, so I get this invoice, and if you look over here, it says this error message that I got at the bottom, well, not warning, right, is that it's a warning of a dead end, and that's because, hey, I'm getting this, I know that the channel that I'm the node that I'm connected to doesn't have any other channels. And so this is a warning of like, hey, this is like dead end or whatever, right? Because from this guy's perspective, L2's perspective, he doesn't know that this is just coming from L1, right? Like the way that the way that the onion is wrapped is that this guy doesn't know that he's the originator of this invoice, right? It could be someone 20 hops behind, 20 hops ahead, except he's able to, because there's only the one channel on this entire Lightning network, this guy's able to recognize like, hey, it's probably coming from that guy, right? So let's go here, and then we're going to do L1 CLI, hey. There we go, cool. So this one's success. Yeah, so status complete. So I just paid this invoice, and so we just pushed it across there, and if I go up and do list funds, there we go, right? So this says I've got the one channel, and then the channel total on my side, total sats, this one? Did I push that in the wrong direction? All right. Well, I completed the payment. Went through. Right? Yeah. So that was the payment between the two of those. And then we're slightly over time now. But yeah, how many people got the testnet Bitcoin? Did they finally go through?
Just waiting for the lock-in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, guys.